Britain is on the brink of becoming a permanently divided nation. That's according to a report published this morning. The Social Mobility and Child Poverty Commission says the under-30s are missing out on opportunities afforded to their parents, such as home ownership and good job prospects, and are being paid lower wages. It also says the government will fail to meet its child poverty reduction targets by 2020. Alan Milburn, who's chair of that commission, says all political parties need to do more to improve social mobility.
I guess overwhelmingly I think things have got worse rather than better. It's great that jobs are being created. That is happening in the economy. But too many of them are dead-end and low-paid. And we now have 5 million people who earn less than the living wage. These figures about the very declining number of young people who are getting onto the housing ladder really are storing up trouble for the future. There's been a 50% decline in the number of young people coming into ownership over the last couple of decades, and the real risk, I think, that the future generation of the young are not going to get the benefits that we got of being able to progress in society. So I think there is a plea to all of the political parties here to make sure that the very noble ambitions that they all want, less poverty, more mobility, are actually matched by policies that can realise them.
Well, let's talk now to Christian Guy, Director of the Centre for Social Justice and one of those on the Social Mobility and Child Poverty Commission. Thanks very much for joining us. Why is it a worsening picture?
Well, progress has been made under this government on some important measures about the things that keep people poor and push people into poverty. But when we look at the next 5 years and we look at child poverty, which we are not going to hit on a legislative basis now with the targets for 2020, and social mobility, which is stalled and is low, you can see that there are two very important missions there for whoever comes into government next May. And we've had lots of good talk, and the rhetoric has been very impressive from all of the political parties, but this report today is a rallying call to say that unless you also will the means and not just the ends, we will continue to fall short on both of those measures.
Just tell us a bit more about how child poverty is defined and what it actually means for children who are put in that bracket, what it means for their lifestyle, how they're growing up.
Well, in this no man's land now when it comes to child poverty in this country, because we had a target which said that 60%, the measure that said 60% of people below the national median are in child poverty. But the Act as defining that target will not now be hit by 2020. We know that. This government came in and said they didn't believe the current measure and definition was credible, but has failed to agree a new measure and to amend the Act. And so what we've now got is this limbo between pretending that the current measures are going to be hit and work, but also saying that we're not going to get anywhere near them and that they're not credible. And what we're saying today is amend the measures. A lot of people in government agree that these need to be amended, but there still seems to be a stalling on this. And true leadership for child poverty now would be a new set of measures that show exactly who we should be worried about and exactly how government can work with children below the poverty line and in poverty. Because growing up in poverty is extremely damaging. We know that for our prospects and for the next generation. We must give people that very good start in life. And too many children right now are missing out on that.
In the absence, though, of the clear definitions that you say are needed, is there any point really having this debate when it's just not clear who is actually being talked about?
Well, this is one of the great problems, because you now have a government and all political parties that commit to the child poverty targets, lifting children above that 60% median income, but also don't believe the measures are credible. So unless we get clarity on that, we continue to pretend to hit targets that no one really believes in. So no, right now it is not a credible position to be in. And we think that you, of course, cannot just spend your way out of poverty now. There isn't the money in it, and it doesn't actually work just to throw money at children below poverty line. You have to deal with the things that keep children poor and push them into poverty. We've seen some progress on that. But unless we have a political will that says here is the group that we genuinely need to be working on, the children in poverty, which we don't have at the moment, then you'll get nowhere. But social mobility also is crucial, because if you get children out of poverty and on, you need to get them into a place where they can progress in society, and that is also a problem.
Christian Guy, Director of the Centre